Frostbite, Chapter 15. I was trying to paint my toenails the next morning, not to say with such a god awful hangover, when I heard a knock at the door. Lisa had been gone when I woke up, so I stragged across the room trying not to ruin my wet nail polish. Opening up the door, I saw one of the hotel staff standing outside with a large box in both arms. He shifted it slightly so that he could peer around and look at me. I'm looking for Rose Hathaway. That's me. I looked. I took the box from him. It was big, but not all that heavy. With a quick thank you, I shut the door, wondering if I should have tipped him. Oh, well. I sat on the floor with the box. It had no marking on it and was sealed with packing tape. I found a pen and stabbed at the tape. Once I could hack off enough, I opened the box and peered inside. It was filled with perfume. There had to be at least 30 little bottles of perfume packed into the box. Some I heard of, some I had not. They racked from crazy expensive movie star caliber to cheap kinds I could see in drugstores. Entente, Angel, Vanilla Fields, Jad Blossom, Michael Kors, Poison, Hypnotic Poison, Pure Poison, Happy, Light Blue, John Mask, Pink Sugar, Veravang. One by one, I picked up the boxes, read the description, and then pulled out the bottles for a sniff. I was about halfway, though, when reality hit. These had to be from Adam. I don't know how he could manage to get all of these delivered to the hotel in such a short amount of time, but money can make almost anything happen. Still, I don't need the attention of a rich, spoiled Morai. Apparently, he had not picked up on my signals. Regretfully, I started to place the perfumes back in the box, then stopped. Of course, I could return them, but there was no harm in sniffing the rest before I did. Once more, I started pulling out the bottle after bottle. Some I just sniffed the cap off, others I sprayed in the air. Serepti, Dolic and Gabbana, Shamila, Daisy, note after note hit me. Rose, violet, sandalwood, orange, vanilla, orchid. By the time I was finished, my nose barely worked anymore. All of these had been designed for humans. They had a weaker sense of smell than vampires, and even dampiers. So these scents were extra strong. I had a new appreciation for what Aden had meant about only a splash of perfume being necessary. If all these bottles were making me dizzy, I could only imagine what a more I could smell. The sensory overload was not really helping the headache I could woken up either. I packed up the perfume for a real this time, stopping only when I came to a certain kind that I really liked. I hesitated, holding the little box in my hand. Then I took the red bottle out and re sniffed it. It was a crispy, sweet fragrance. There was some kind of fruit, but not a candied or sugar fruit. I racked my brain for a scent I could once smelled on a girl I know in my dorm. She told me the name. It was like a cherry, but sharper. Currant, that is what it was. And here it was in this perfume mixed with some florals, lily of the valley and others I could not identify. Whatever the blend, something about it appealed to me. Sweet, but not too sweet. I read the box looking for the name. Armor. Fitting. I muttered, seeing how many love problems I seems to have lately. But I kept the perfume anyway and repacked the rest. Hoisting the box up in my arms, I took it down to the front desk and acquired some packing tape to reseal it. It also got direction to Adrian's room. Apparently, the Ashwalks practically had their own wing. It was not too far from Tasha's room. Feeling like a delivery girl, I walked down the hall and stopped in front of his door. Before I could manage to knock, it opened up, and Arden stood before me. He looked as surprised as I felt. Little Dampier, he said cordially. Don't expect to see you here. I'm returning this. I hoisted the box towards him before he could protest. Clumsily, he caught it. striking a bit in surprise once he had a good grip. He took a few steps back and set it on the floor. Don't you like any of them? He asked. You want me to get you some more? Don't send me any more gifts. It's not a gift, it's a public service. What woman does not own perfume? Don't do it again, I said firmly. Suddenly, a voice behind him asked, Rose, is that you? I peered beyond him. Lisa, what are you doing here? Between my headache and what I had assumed was some interlude with Christian, I could block her out as best as I could this morning. Normally, I could have known the instant I approached that she was inside the room. I opened myself up again, letting her shock run into me. She had not expected me to show up here. What are you doing here? She asked. Ladies, he said teasingly. No need to fight over me. I'm glad we are not. I just want to know what is going on here. A breath of aftershave hit me, and then I heard a voice behind me. Me too. I jumped, spinning around. I saw Drummond standing in the hallway. I had no clue what he was doing in the Ashwalk wing. Oh, his way to Tasha's room, a voice inside me suggested. Drummond no doubt always expected me to get into any sort of trouble, but I think seeing Lisa there caught him off guard. He stepped past me and came into the room looking between the three of us. Male and female students are not supposed to be in each other's rooms. I know, pointing out that Arren was not technically a student was not going to get us out of the trouble here. We were not supposed to be in any guy's rooms. How do you keep doing this? I asked Arren, frustrated. Do what? Keep making us look bad. He chuckled. You guys are the ones who came here. You should not have let them in, scolded Drummond. I'm sure you know the rules at St. Valdemar's. Adrian churched. Yeah, but I don't have to follow any school's stupid rules. Perhaps not. And said Drummond coldly, but I could have thought you could still respect those rules. Aaron rolled his eyes. I'm kind of surprised to find you lecturing about underage girls. I saw the anger curl in Drummond's eyes, and for a moment I thought I might have seen the loss of control I teased him about. But he stayed composed, and only his fist clenched showed how angry he was. Besides, continued Adrian, nothing sordid was going on. We were just hanging out. If you want to hang out with young girls, do it at one of the public areas. I don't really like Drummond calling us young girls, and I kind of felt like he was overacting here. I also suspected part of his reaction had to do with the fact that I was here. Aaron laughed just then, a weird kind of laugh that made my skin crawl. Young girls, young girls. Sure, young and old at the same time. They have barely seen anything in life, yet they have already seen too much. Once marked with life and once marked with death. But they are the ones you are worried about? Worry about yourself, Dampier. Worry about you. And worry about me. We are the ones who are young. The rest of us just sort of started. I don't think anyone had expected Adrian to suddenly take an upgrade trip to Crazy Villa. Adrian was calm and looked perfectly normal again. He turned away and strolled towards the window, glancing casually back at the rest of us as he pulled out his cigarettes. You ladies should probably go. He is right. I'm a bad influence. I exchanged looks with Lisa hurriedly minutes later. It was starting the abuse, but well, Someone had to. Very, said Drimmit. He don't sound angry, so much as puzzled. When we reached the lobby, I started to follow Lisa back towards our room, but Drimmit called to me. Rose, he said, can I talk to you? I felt a sympathy rush of feelings from Lisa. I turned towards Drimmit and stepped off to the side of the room, out of the way of those passing thoughts. A party of morai in diamonds and fur swept past us, annoxious looks on their faces. Bellobs followed with luggages. People were still living in search of safer places. The Strigoi, paranoid, was far from over. Jimmit's voice snapped my attention back to him. That is Adrian Ashwok. He said the name the same way everyone else did. Yeah, I know. This is the second time I have seen you with him. Yeah, I replied. We hang out sometimes. Drimmits arched an eyebrow, then jerked his head back towards where we could came from. You hang out in his room a lot? Several retorts popped into my head, and then a golden one took precedence. What happens between him and me is none of your business. I managed a tone very similar to the one he could use on me when making a similar comments about him and Tasha. Actually, as long as you're at the academic, what you do is my business, not my personal life. You don't have any say in that. You're not an adult yet. I'm close enough. Besides, it is not like I will magically become an adult on my 18th birthday. Clearly, he said. I blushed. That is not what I mean. I meant. I know what you mean, and the technicalities don't matter right now. You're an academic student. I'm your instructor. It is my job to help you and to keep you safe. Being in the bedroom of someone like him, well, that's not safe. I can handle Adam Ashwa. I muttered. He's weird, really weird, apparently, but harmless. I secretly wondered if Dremit's problem might be that he was jealous, but he had not pulled Lisa aside to yell at her. The thought made me slightly happy, but then I remembered my earlier curiosity about why Dremet have ever wondered by. Speaking of personal lives, I suppose you were off visiting Tasha, huh? I know it was pretty, and I expected a none of your business response. Instead, he replied, actually, I was visiting your mother. You're going to hook up with her too? I know, of course, he was not, but the quick seems too good to pass up. He seems to know that too, and merely gave me a wary glance. No, we were looking over some new data about the Strigoi and the Dozewalk attack. My anger and snagginess dried up. The Dozewalk, the Badika, suddenly everything that had happened this morning seems incredibly trivial. How could I have stood there arguing with Rimmett about romance that might or might not be happening when he and the other guardians were trying to protect us? What do you find out? I asked quietly. We have managed to track some of the trigger, he said, or at least the humans with him. There were witnesses who lived nearby who spotted a few of the cars the group seized. The plates were all from different states. The group appears to have split up, probably to make it hard for us. But one of us witnesses did catch one plate number. It is registered to an address in Spokane. Spokane? I asked incredulously. Spokane, Washington? Who makes Spokane their hideout? I could been there once. It was about as boring as every other backwoods northwest city. Strigoi, apparently. He said, deadpan. The address was fake, but other evidence shows they really are there. There is kind of shopping plaza that has some underground tunnels. There have been strigoi sites around the area. Then I frowned. Are you going to go after them? Is somebody going to? This is what Tasha has been saying all along. If we know where they are. He shook his head. The guardians cannot do anything without permission from higher up. That is not going to happen anytime soon. I signed because the more I talk too much, you are being cashew, he said. I felt myself getting worked up again. Come on, even you cannot want to be careful on this one. You actually know where Strigoi are hiding out. Strigoi who muscat children. Don't you want to go after them when they don't expect it? I sounded like a manson now. It is not that easy. He answered. We answer to the Guardians Council in the Morai government. We cannot just run off and act on impulse. And anyway, we don't know everything yet. You should never walk into any situation without knowing all the details. Zen life lessons again. I signed. I ran a hand through my hair, tucking it behind my ears. Could you tell me this anyway? This is the guardian stuff, not the kind of the thing you let non-voice in on. He considered his words and his expression softened. He always looked amazing, but I liked him best like this. I have said a few things the other day and today that I should not have. Things that insulted your age. You're 17, but you're capable of handling and processing the same things, those much older than you do. My chest grew light and fluttery. Really? He nodded. You're still really young in a lot of ways and act young. But the only way to really change this is to treat you like an adult. I need to do that more. I know you will take this information and understand how important it is and keep it to yourself. I don't love being told I acted young, but I like the idea that he could talk to me like an equal. The mark? Came a voice. Tasha Ozira walked up to us. She smiled when she saw me. Hello, Rose. There went my mood. Hey, I said flatly. She placed her hand on Drimmed's forearm, sliding her fingers over the leathers of his coat. I eyed those fingers angrily. How dare they touch him? You have got that look, she told him. What look? He asked. The stern look he could won with me vanished. There was a small knowing smile on his lips, almost a playful one. That look that says you're going to be on duty all day. Really? I have a look like that? There was a teasing, mocking tone in his voice. She nodded. When does your shift technically end? Drimmett actually looked, I swear, sheepless. And higher though? You cannot keep doing this. She groaned. You need a break. Well, if you consider that I'm always Lisa's guardian. For now, she said knowingly. I felt a sicker that I had last night. There is a big pool tournament going on upstairs. I cannot, he said, but the smile was still on his face. Even though I have not played it a long time. What the? Drimmond played pool? Suddenly, it don't matter that we could just had a discussion about him treating me like an adult. Some small part of me did know what a compliment that was, but the rest of me wanted him to treat me like he did Tasha. Playfully, teasing, casual. They were so familiar with each other, so completely at ease. Come on then, she begged. Just one round, we could take them off. I cannot. He repeated. He sounded regretful. Not with everything going on. She sobered a little. No, I suppose not. Glancing at me, she said teasingly, I hope you realize what a hardcore role model you have here. He is never off duty. Well, I said, copying her lighting tone from earlier. For now, at least. Tasha looked puzzled. I don't think it occurred to her I could be making fun of her. Jimmett's dark look told me he knew exactly what I was doing. I immediately realized I could just kill whatever progress I could made as an adult. We are finished here, Rose. Remember what I said? Yeah. I said, turning away. I suddenly wanted to go to my room and wait for a while. This day was making me tired already. Definitely. I had gotten far when I ran into Mason. Good God, men everywhere. You're mad, he said as soon as he looked at my face. He had a knack for discovering my moods. What happened? Some authority problems. It has been a weird morning. I signed, unable to get Drimmit off the brain. Looking at Manson, I remember how I could be convinced I wanted to get serious with him last night. I was a head case. I could not make up my mind about anyone. Deciding the best way to banish one guy was to pay attention to another. I grabbed Manson's hand and stretched him away. Come on, what is the deal to go somewhere private today? I figured you were not drunk anymore. He joked, but his eyes looked very, very serious and interested. I assume it was all off. Hey, I stand by my climbs, no matter what. Opening my mind, I searched for Lisa. She was no longer in our room. She had gone off to some other royal event, no doubt, still practicing for Pascal Voda's big dinner. Come on, I told Manson. We will go to my room. Aside from when Drimmets inconveniently happened to be passing by someone's room, nobody was really enforcing the mixed gender rule. It was practically like being back in the academics dorms. As Manson and I went upstairs, I related to him what Drimmett had told me about the Strigoi in Spokane. Drimmett had told me to keep it to myself, but I was mad at him again, and I don't see any harm in telling Manson. I know he could be interested in this. I was right. Manson got really worked up. What? He exclaimed as we walked into my room. You're not doing anything? I searched and sat on my bed. Drummond said, I know, I hear you about being careful and all that. Manson paced around my room angrily. But if those three go after another Morai, another family, damn it, you are going to wish they were not so careful then. Forget about it. I said, I felt kind of miffed that me on the bed was not enough to deter him from crazy battle plans. There is nothing we can do. He stopped walking. We could go. Go where? I asked stupidly. To Spokane. There are buses you can catch in town. Wait. You want us to go to Spokane and take on Strigoi? Sure. Eddie do it too. We could go to that mall. They could not be organized or anything, so we could wait and pick them off one by one. I could only stare. When did you get so dumb? Oh, I see. Thanks for the vote of confidence. It is not about confidence, I argued, standing up and approaching him. You kick major ass. Have seen it, but this is not the way. We cannot go get Eddie and take on Strigoi. We need more people, more planning, more information. I rested my hands on his chest. He placed his over mine and smiled. The fire of battle was still in his eyes, but I could tell his mind was shifting to more immediate concerns like me. I don't mean to call you dumb. I told him, I'm sorry. You're just saying that now because you want to have your way with me. Of course I am. I laughed, happy to see him relax. The nature of this conversation reminded me a little of the one Christian and Lisa had in the chapel. Well, he said, I don't think I'm going to be too hard to take advantage of. Good, because there are lots of things I wanted to do. I slid my hands up and round his neck. His skin was warm beneath my fingers, and I remembered how much I could enjoy kissing him last night. Suddenly, out of nowhere, he said, You really are a student. Whose? Blogs. I was just thinking about when you mentioned needing more information and stuff. You act just like him. We have gotten all serious since we have been hanging out with him. No, I have not. Manson had pulled me closer, but now I suddenly don't feel so romantic. I could wanted to make out and forget Remit for a while, not have a conversation about him. Where had this come from? Manson was supposed to be distracting me. He don't notice anything was wrong. You have just changed. That's all. It is not bad, just different. Something about that made me angry, but before I could snap back, his mouth met mine in a kiss. Reasonable discussion sort of vanished. A bit of dark temper started to rise in me, but I simply channeled that intensity into physicality as Manson and I fell on the top of each other. I yanked him down on the bed, managing to do so without stopping the kissing. I was nothing if not a multitasker. I dug my nails into his back while his hand slid up the back of my neck and released the ponytail I could just made minutes ago. Running his fingers through the unbound hair, he shifted his mouth down and kissed my neck. You're amazing, he told me, and I could tell he meant it. His whole face glowed with affection for me. I arched upwards, letting his lips press hard against my skin while his hands slipped under the bottom of my shirt. They trailed upwards along my stomach, just barely tracing the edge of my brow. Considering we could just have an argument a minute ago, I was surprised to see things escalated so quickly. Honestly, though, I don't mind. This was the way I lived my life. Everything was always fast and intense with me. The night Rimitan had fallen victim to Victor's dishwalk lust charm. There could be some pretty furious passion going on too. Drummond had controlled it though, so sometimes we could take in things slowly, and that had been wonderful in its own way, but most of the time we had not been able to hold ourselves back. I could feel it all over again, the way his hands had run over my body, the deep, powerful kiss. It was then I realized something. I was kissing Manson, but in my head I was with Drummond. And it was not like I was simply remembering either. I was actually imagining I was with Drummond right now, revealing the night all over again. With my eyes closed, it was easy to pretend. But when I opened them and saw Manson's eyes, I knew he was with me. He ordered me and he wanted me for a long time. For me to do this, to be with him and pretend I was with someone else, it was not right. I wiggled out of his reach. No, don't. Manson stopped immediately because that is the kind of guy he was. Too much? He asked. I nodded. That's okay. We don't have to do that. He reached for me again and I moved further away. No, I just don't. I don't know. Let's call it quits, okay? I. He was speechless for a moment. What happened to the lots of things you wanted to do? Yeah, I look pretty bad. But what could I say? I cannot get physically with you because when I do, I just think about the other guy I actually want. You're just a stand in. I swallowed, feeling stupid. I'm sorry, miss. I just cannot. He sat up and ran a hand over his hair. Okay, alright. I could hear the hardness in his voice. You're mad. He glanced over at me, a stormy expression on his face. I'm just confused. I cannot read your signals. One moment you're hot, the next you're cold. You tell me you want me. You tell me you don't. If you picked one, that could be fine. But you keep making me think one thing and then you end up going in a completely different direction. Not just now, all the time. It was true. I had gone back and forth with him. Sometimes I was flirty, other times I completely ignored him. Is there something you want me to do? He asked. When I don't say anything, something that will, I don't know, make you feel better about me? I don't know, I said weakly. He signed. Then what do you want in general? Dream it, I thought. Instead, I repeated myself. I don't know. With a groan, he stood up and headed for the door. Rose, for someone who claims she wants to gather as much information as possible, you really have a lot to learn about yourself. The door slammed behind him. The noise made me flinch, and as I started at where Manson had just stood, I realized he was right. I did have a lot to learn.